Good morning, Tri-Cities. I'm Karl Dye, and we are going to start Coffee with Karl this morning. Today's theme of our program is resiliency, especially for small businesses. So we have two extraordinary small business owners that are joining us today. I'd like to introduce, first of all, Alexandra RoseLee from White Glove Weddings. Alexandra, thanks for joining us today. I love your mask. Good morning. Oh, I'm sorry, you might still be on mute, which is what happens with these Zoom meetings all the time.
There we go. I was just going to say coffee with Karl.
Nice. Very nice. And Shaun Ehlers is the owner of Free Culture Clothing. And Shaun, there you go. There he is. How's it going?
Good.
Thanks for joining us, Shaun.
For having me today.
Yeah, for sure. We appreciate both you guys join us in the conversation. So to kick it off, and Alexandra already had her coffee mask on, but we always talk about coffee mugs or coffee cups or coffee or anything. I've got our old school Tri-Cities logo. It's kind of like when the regional chamber and Visit Tri-Cities and Tridec all said, let's use the same logo stuff. I don't know how far back this goes, but you know, it's Tri-Cities. And so I think that representing small businesses for Tri-Cities, which both of you guys do today, looking forward to learning more about your businesses and how you've been able to kind of make it through and be resilient with COVID and the ways that you've pivoted your businesses. And I think you're great representatives of the Tri-Cities. So that's my mug and my story. Let's go to Shaun first with your mug or story or coffee or what do you got?
Sure, I'm going to bust out my mug. I think it has a really good theme for us today, since all the things that we're discussing around small business. And it says, let the adventure begin. It probably looks upside or the opposite direction right now. But I just think a good testament for everyone, and just every day, just reminding ourselves, you know, it's a new adventure and just, you know, get ready for the ride.
That's perfect. I really appreciate that message. It reminds me of, I'd seen news articles about it like last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe when it first came out or it first went viral, but then I finally watched it this week. But the guy from Idaho Falls that's on his longboard and drinking the, you know, the cranberry juice. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but and it's on the Fleetwood Mac Dreams. But like I watched that and I got the backstory, like his car broke down, he had to go to work. So he just breaks out the longboard and he's cruising to work and just, you know, broke down this TikTok. Like
that's a good story.
That's kind of like we all have to do with COVID, especially, right? And I can't imagine like you guys with small businesses, just looking forward to sharing your stories today and learning more about it. So Alexandra, what do you have for a mug?
My daughter painted this at Polka Dot Pottery. So it's supporting a local business, but it's also kind of a moving forward. We're going to get through Christmas. We're going to get into the New Year's and we're going to be off into 21, hoping for newer beginnings. I was telling you guys earlier, I spared you the cocoa and peppermint vodka in here. That might have been a little more exciting. But yeah, it's
Karl, we never ask what you're drinking. Like you can drink anything that you want. It's totally up to you.
Good. Yes. I luckily just kept it empty and stayed with my spark this morning. But yeah, my daughter is a huge motivation as to why I continue carrying on. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, let's get right into it, and I'll invite our guests. If you have any questions for Alexandra or Shaun, we'll use the question and answer box at the bottom if you're on Zoom. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, you can put your question in the comment section and we'll get to you. So looking forward to a good discussion today. But let's start with Alexandra. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And, you know, are you from the Tri-Cities? Where'd you come from? And then how'd you get into originally the wedding planning business?
Okay, so the masks, well, I saw that potentially there would be a need for masks, and I thought if this could be a niche that I could use to carry out paying my overhead and so forth, let's at least go for it. So I had bed sheets and a 20-year-old sewing machine. And so I created my own patterns just from trial and error because everything I found online just really wasn't actually fitting a real human face. And supplies were very limited. So I was doing a lot of research on fabric and materials, and there really wasn't any. So for ear loops, I was using nylon that could be adjusted by tying a knot. The original masks had ribbons. So I had poor gentlemen running around with ribbons that they were tying in the back of their head. But the cool thing was that they could also lanyard them around their neck, kind of like I have here. And yeah, to support my business, it's gone really well. I got into coordination and design. The second part of your question, actually on active duty, I started a business while realizing there was a market niche for military weddings. I was in Southern California, and I was asked to do a lot of ceremonies and parades and things while on active duty. And then a lot of engaged couples knew I had the security clearances to get to on-base facilities. And so I started doing a lot of complimentary wedding planning and design things. And I was like, this is a business. What am I doing? So back then it was $11 to start a fictitious business name and have a business in California. And that was 17 years ago, back from 2004. And prior to that, in high school, I just was in leadership and did, homecoming and semi-formals and parades and what have you then. But I've kind of always had an interest in design and event planning. I just never thought it would actually be a career. So it's worked out.
That's awesome. And I see in your bio, like Eastern Oregon. Are you from Eastern Oregon originally, or where'd you grow up?
Well, I was born on Guam, and then I grew up partly in Boston, Mass, and Seekonk, Mass, and then I moved all over Rhode Island, and then I moved to Portland, Oregon when I was 10, and then went to San Diego, California for active duty when I was 19, and I was there until I was 34.
Awesome.
Yeah, so all over, but Portland, Oregon, I would claim is like Eastern Washington, Portland area is kind of where I spent most of my time.
Okay, that's awesome. How'd you come to the Tri-Cities?
Well, we were in San Diego. My longtime boyfriend at the time, he's now my husband. He had gotten word that there were some openings at Hanford. He was an executive with Target in LA. The retail business was just treacherous, especially around holidays. And when you have 4-level mall Targets in downtown LA, it was just really intense. So he got a lot of great experience from the military in California. Then he went and worked for Target and then got a job working as analyst for finance and for projections and for spending with MSA. His dad and his stepmom have worked for that company for 35, 40 years, and it's his grandfather. And so he was like, well, I'll move to where my family is in the Tri-Cities. And so he's now a financial analyst.
That's
He's
awesome.
like, you're botching it anyway.
Well, thanks for that story. That's awesome. And thank you for your service to our country.
Thanks.
That's cool. Okay, Shaun, kind of the same question for you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? And how did you get into small business for yourself?
Well, I'm actually, from Tri-Cities.
Okay.
It's funny because people walk into our clothing store and a lot of times they think I'm from California or that I'm not from here originally. Right. But nope, I'm here from born and raised here in Kennewick. Awesome. And I would like to say that I've attended some of Alexandra's events, and she knows what's up. You do bring a whole nother level to the table, and since you've moved around so much, I feel like your work is very different than a lot of other folks around here. So
thank you, I appreciate that.
You do great work there. And so the thing about me and Alexandra, I think that helps is that you can definitely tell that passion drives our business. We're both super passionate people, and it just so happens to be that my passion is clothing. And so where I'm from, how I started as a 16-year-old boy walking into Columbia Center Mall. I was a regular mall rat here when growing up, like I'm sure a lot of people can attest to, or maybe you're a mall walker, or something like that. And my first job was at PacSun, which is kind of a trendy, kind of fun California clothing, lifestyle inspired brand. And after working with them for quite a few years, the routine with retail is kind of, you need to move to get a pay increase, and to get that experience and go up into new positions. A lot of times, usually you'll kind of reach a cap after you've been in a spot for so long. And so I used that to my advantage, and I hopped around to a couple different stores, all on very respectful timelines, and worked in a couple different positions for them, from co-manager, shipping and receiving manager. I really just worked my way up from a sales associate to a store manager, and then one day decided, you want to know what? I would love to do kind of my own thing. And so that's kind of brought me, to here today. Obviously, it wasn't quite as easy as just opening the doors. But one thing that I can attest to is that it's a very rewarding job. And our thing is we really just love making people look good and feel good, because when you're feeling good about yourself, it really gives you the confidence to achieve, whatever it is that you're wanting to handle for the day. And so we just love to inspire our customers, and we truly rep our brand like a lifestyle. Positivity is everything. And as owners, we are visionaries. And I think that as visionaries, we got to remind ourselves that it has to be a positive vision. So, because that keeps everyone more cheerful and up to speed.
Well, that's cool. And we'll talk about it more later, but I'm sure that attitude and the kind of your passion for your business is probably a lot of what's kept you going, and kind of, we all need those reminders, right? We all need that reason that we wake up in the morning, especially when you're faced with these hugely challenging times like now. But what do you design and make your own clothes, or do you carry other lines, or like how do you? I've not been in your store yet, and I'm brand new to the Tri-City, so I just haven't made it down there yet.
Oh yeah.
How would you describe
No,
your
absolutely.
your merchandise and stuff?
Yeah, so we actually carry a lot of name brand items that people are used to seeing in the mall, and are they've known and they've grown up with, and they have a big love for. So brands like Volcom, Hurley, Element, some of those old school lifestyle brands that I grew up loving.
Sure.
Paxson, things like Stant socks, and then we do make our own clothes here as well. All of the Free Cultures tees are designed and printed here in Kennewick.
Nice.
So it truly is a local experience when you're purchasing those items, because it not only affects us, me and my employees, but also who creates our garments and things for us as well. And then we also do host other local vendors in the shop as well. So we just rolled out a new vendor program. So upcoming artists that are into clothing or fashion design or whatnot are able to reach out to us, and we have a program to guide them in the direction of starting to get their products to sell.
Oh, wow. So. That's awesome. Well, let's shift gears into COVID, right? And I think, Alexandra, you talked a little bit about it, and it's been a challenge across the board for everybody, I think in the whole world at this point. But let's talk a little bit about like what that was like what you saw maybe in how you'd been running your business before. And Alexandra, you led us into this with some of your mask creation, but what did you see with COVID? I mean, did you see any your business start to slow down before, like we had the governor's order to shut everything down, or what was that like, and what was that kind of going into it like?
Well, from the coordination and design aspect with the white glove weddings, it was a little bit of hysteria with my couples that were constantly watching the news and becoming more and more, anxious about what was to come for their, events that were coming up. For me, it was like replanning an event 3 to 5 times, because every time a new regulation or rule or mandate came out that we needed to follow, it was usually me being the bearer of bad news, staying on top of that stuff and contacting all my clients and saying, okay, here's how we'll troubleshoot. Dealing with the very emotional aspects of event planning, and particularly weddings. There's a lot of finances involved, a lot of stress involved, a lot of emotion involved. And so it had to be handled in a different approach. And so I never went to my clients saying, oh, there's this new mandate, looks like there's no hope. It was always me kind of rehearsing in my head how I was going to encourage the client, as well as have an idea for how to forego a new rule, or how we were going to kind of manipulate the wedding to fit new regulation standards before I ever even talked with them. And so I didn't ever really have to do a lot of talking off of ledges with my clients. My clients never wanted to just cancel or pull or postpone. We always had our chins up and had the approach like, okay, we'll just handle it this way, or we'll have to reduce our guest count by this much, or let's redesign your event so that we can accommodate this spacing or these new food handling rules. And so I didn't lose any of my clients. They all went through with their events. There was one breakup, and that was it. And that was not to do with anything we could have foreseen, but all my events were brought to fruition, luckily. But what it has changed is usually all of my my weddings are being brought to fruition while booking seasons are also happening. So the books are filling while some are rolling off. And where it's really been contentious and financially awkward is to not have the guarantee that like, oh, the next wave is coming, because it just didn't come. So, and then I just kind of choose to work harder in other ways. What else can I do? Can I do holiday parties? Can I create my own holiday events that are networking events? Can I work harder doing masks? What other things can you sew to sell? What markets can you be a part of, no matter how far away they are? So it was just a constant. It's just been constant. I'm honestly exhausted.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine. Like, and I think just like what you brought up before, and obviously you're wearing the cool mask when you first came on, but shifted to making your own mask line. And do you want to talk a little bit about that? And maybe, Shaun was talking about bringing other items into a store. Maybe Shaun might be wanting to carry a few masks or something.
Sure. Well, it was kind of interesting because I had experience with retail in my own store and it didn't go very well. And so I thought, well, if this could go for even a couple weeks, I can try to get ahead on my finances. 3 days into about 100 orders, my machine broke. And so I went everywhere around the Tri-Cities trying to find a machine, and there was none available except for this really nice embroidery sewing machine at Walmart. And I was like, well, if I can make enough to at least pay this off in 2 weeks, then I can hit a break even and this isn't going to seem so bad. And so it's been going for 9 months. So I've paid off the machine. But I was really kind of afraid getting into retail because it hadn't worked well for me in the past. But I've just been kind of savvy about how I've gotten the masks out there. One thing that has helped me a lot is applying, and like Shaun, he has his market niche, he knows his clientele, is me knowing who my audience was from the beginning. And so I wanted to put out a mask that was different and unique than what Target was putting out or what Costco was, or what was available on Amazon. And so I wanted to put out something that was high quality, comfortable, was easy to accessorize, that you felt confident and pretty in, because why not feel cute in a mask, And so from the get-go, I wanted to put out a really high thread count product that was easy to wear and that you weren't going to lose by lanyarding it or what have you. So I, from the beginning, wanted to be creative in my approach. And that's really helped me. So that's kind of how the bed sheet story started. So.
Oh, exactly. So, I mean, the key that you found was identifying something unique and then being able to market it and really do something that you hadn't really done before.
Yeah.
Like you said,
and I mean, luckily I was
retail
familiar.
and production. Yeah.
Yes. And I was familiar with what the demographic I'm used to appealing to wanted. And so,
Right.
and what the threshold was for pricing. And so it was not an easy transition because I had never sewed before. I had maybe made one pillowcase in my life. Figuring out how to wind a bobbin and thread the darn thing was like a day-long process. But I figured it out and was able to just kind of continue to get a higher and higher understanding and a better sewing quality out over time. I look at stuff, I recently just deleted posts. I look at stuff that I had made even 6 months ago and I was like, oh, we got to pull that down. Like I'm not doing that way anymore. So now I've got it locked in. Now I've got a mask that'll actually like stay on your face.
Right.
But in the beginning, there were pretty low standards. Nobody was familiar with masks. Nobody knew how they were supposed to fit, feel, what their preferences were for ear loop, no ear loop, hang on their head, hang on, whatever, jump on your face automatically when you commanded, people didn't have any requirements. So luckily, I've been able to evolve with everybody else. And so that's been good. It wasn't a pass or fail thing, luckily. So
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So you talked about the demographic of like your target demographic. Did you go after your same clientele that your wedding planning business had, was targeted at, or did you expand that demographic, or how did you?
I think in the beginning I wanted really to do something that was meaningful and something that was helpful to the community, as well as be able to generate an income. And so I thought masks are a service to the community. So I wanted them to appeal to everybody. But when I started bringing on sequins and like different fun fabrics that are $50 a yard at the craft store, I
Right.
knew that I could invest in those kinds of materials, knowing that I did have a following on Facebook already, that those more expensive materials would appeal to.
Yeah.
And then I could cover my costs. So now I have over 500 fabrics and a ton of textiles and a ton
Wow.
of everything under the sun. So somebody can say, I want flamingos on the beach, and I probably have it. So but I was investing in things at first that the general population, wanted. A lot of things weren't even available, like lips. People wanted lips, couldn't find lips. I waited 4 months and paid $60 for a yard of lip fabric. People wanted Seahawks. We talked about that. It was $150 a yard on Etsy, when there was no Seahawk fabric to be found, when it's normally $9 a yard on sale at Joann's. So I just kind of continued to collect materials that people were asking for and that they were willing to purchase. But it did, I think, help that I had a lot of past clients and current clients that did want to pay $20 for a mask. And then I did a lot of research. Etsy was selling masks for $40 at the time, and then you had to pay tax and shipping and wait a month to get it. So it was also a little bit of leverage that I was local and that I could have it to you in a couple days. And so, now it's slowed down a little bit now that everybody has their masks and their preferences. And unfortunately, bigger companies like Costco now masks sell them for $3. But if you're still looking for a really high thread count mask that will last, I'm still supplying them.
That is awesome. Let's shift over to Shaun. And Shaun, how about Free Culture Clothing? What was it like when you first, went into COVID? And then what are some things that, very generally that you guys have done to connect with your clientele and stay open and be resilient?
Yeah. So before COVID, not to put myself in that category, but sometimes, you're a hermit in the mall because the mall is 7 days a week, there's a lot of hours, that you're putting into the business. And, I think that, let's just be honest, in the past, has anyone ever told you you're not allowed to go to work?
Right.
So, like, just being able to contemplate that in your mind, like, I'm not allowed to go to work, was just itself mind-blowing. But we could see it a few weeks before the governor actually gave his order. We had a month where we were super successful and we were just really on track to some goals that we had set for ourselves. And so we had launched into March with some really high hopes. And that first week into March, we hit it, right? We were so pumped. And next thing you know, second week of March, third week of March, if you would have walked into the mall, you just would have been shocked. No one would have ever think to have seen it that empty.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of, kind of looking around, talking with our neighbors, trying to figure out, is the plan just to keep spending payroll here, or because luckily, for us, we're local small business owners. So if we need to put in some extra hours, right, we can do that. If we may not want to work, that much, but we have that flexibility. And those larger companies, they don't, because they have to, they have so much payroll to cover. And so, it was a little nerve-wracking as you started to see stores slowly start closing and coming up with their own practices to keep everyone safe. And so about March, I think it was either 23rd or 28th, they finally closed the mall down.
Yeah.
And that was pretty intense because the mall was closed for about 4 months. And so for us, something that we immediately did was we immediately transferred all of our product out of the mall once they closed, because we're not able to have clients in the mall. And so part of our resilience and part of our blessing is we have been investing the last 2 years in the historic downtown Kennewick area. We have a location down there at 114 West Kennewick Ave. And so the mall had kind of taken the reins for the last year, being kind of in the shopping hub of the Tri-Cities. And what we did was we instantly transitioned things over to the downtown, and we said, okay, well, one thing that we can do is we can do private shopping appointments. And so immediately, we began scheduling private shopping appointments, one-on-ones. People you couldn't go get anything anywhere, which was very scary. And so, we were happy to be able to provide our customers, with the opportunity for some additional VIP treatment, and just, make them feel really special when they came in and brought their family or the small group of friends that we would allow them in. And so that is one thing that really helped us. As far as how operations go in our store post-COVID, everything has changed. My whole day has changed in terms of how it's organized, what the employees are doing, things like that, to become more resilient from COVID. And another big thing is that we started carrying essential items. So our downtown Kennewick store is a Wish pickup location, which means that if any of you guys like to shop on wish.com, you can actually pick to have those Wish items shipped to Free Culture Clothing at a reduced shipping cost, at which you can come pick up at your convenience. Kind of similar to Amazon Locker or the Amazon counter. And so that is one thing that's helped bring us in, and we've continued to ship through them. So, looking at additional sales channels. Beforehand, people might have came and asked, okay, well, what are your sales channels? And I would have told them pre-COVID, oh, the mall, downtown Kennewick, we get a couple online orders here or there, and post-COVID, it's like, okay, well, we got the mall, we got the downtown, we're selling items on Wish. We're looking into Amazon Marketplace. We're just really starting to increase and add all these additional channels that we're able to sell our merchandise through, major website updates. We're an inventory-driven business, and so right now it's on the edge of caution because shipping dates and everything are so backed up. So I just recently put in a jogger pant order because we're very highly known for our joggers here, our jogger pants for guys. And it had like a 3-week ship time on it. And so when you're dealing with a bunch of inventory that you need for holiday, you really need to plan ahead. And so we ended up bulk buying the majority of our holiday products right at the beginning, even though it wasn't an expense that we necessarily wanted to take on at that moment, but just to be better prepared, because you never know what can happen. We want to make sure that we're all prepped and ready for, our customers. We want to give them a great Black Friday and have some awesome sales and products for them. And then the other thing to touch on, and sorry if I'm just kind of rambling on it.
No, this is great. We appreciate it. It's really good. You're really giving us a good idea.
While a lot of companies instantly started reducing payroll and things like that, we started expanding payroll with our downtown. And then when the mall reopened, we instantly put money into rehiring, getting a full staff trained up for holiday, expanding our departments. So if you would have walked into Free Culture Clothing pre-COVID, you will see a very different store when you walk in now. We've got new denim lines that have dropped. So we've expanded to carry curvy sizes. And just in terms of the quantity of products that we carry is just expanded crazy huge. Wow. So now we're not missing. We saw the holes that we had in our inventory, made adjustments, made sure to fill them so that everything is cohesive. We took a look at our, with that scheduling and payroll. So we used to do all our payroll just manually because it's, cheap, it's effective, right? It's okay that they write it down. And we invested in a whole new scheduling app called Homebase, and they have a bunch of different plans. They even have a free plan. But what's wonderful about it is it allows all my employees to check the schedule on their phone. It allows them to clock in from their phone. It allows us to share team messages, rate shifts, how good they are, leave notes about the shifts. And we've just put a lot of focus on how we can be more organized and more effective with our time.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
I was going to ask about, like when you set up the private shopping appointments and stuff, did you have like a big social media presence or email, or, you talked about adding your sales channels, but did you, Shaun, was your business, would you say you're in pretty good touch with your clientele, like, through social media or other platforms? Like, how did you communicate with them and say, even like, hey, you can come to private shop or something? How'd that work?
Totally. Yeah. So we would let people know via Facebook, via Instagram. We do have an email list. So if anyone would like to subscribe and just kind of know what's going on at Free Culture Clothing, you're more than welcome to. We have the link right on our website at freecultureclothing.com. Or if anyone wants to shoot us a message on Facebook, we'd be glad to add you guys. As far as Instagram, our following is only over 2K. Some people might think that's a lot. For us, we think it's a lot because for a long time I was at like 1,200, and you know how it is. Once you get into a spot, you're kind of stuck, and then we hit 2, and I was like, yes. And my best. And here's the thing: is I love Instagram. All right, throw some Instagram at me because tagging products is fun. It's just very user friendly. But where I've had the largest bang for my buck has been in Facebook, because I think we're at almost 9,000 followers on Facebook.
Wow.
And thank you for bringing up like our email list. That's another additional marketing channel, that we really put into focus. So we want to make sure that people are staying in touch, and that they're updated regularly so they know what we got going on. So they can keep us in the back of their minds. And then the best practice for anyone, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter what business you're in. I think we're all in the people business.
Right.
And you know what I mean? So even when I hire my employees, I just tell them, people got to like you because you need to be well liked to work here, because, we're very friendly and outgoing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a great segue maybe over to Alexandra. Like same question. You talked about, obviously you weren't doing sewing or masks before COVID, and you pivoted to that product line, but then how are you selling them? Like, what, to Shaun's point about sales channels, how are you connecting with your customers? And then do you use social media and some of those other ways to make sure that you maintain that connection and let them know about new products or whatever you want to talk to them about?
Yeah, I'm pretty techno dense. I have a really hard time with all things technology. I'm kind of old school. Backstory with me. I when I started my business, there were no websites, there was no Google, there was no Facebook, there was none of that. And so for me, referral and word of mouth has always been like kind of my go-to. The outpouring of support from the local community alone has been a large majority of my business. I get a lot of tags if somebody asks on Facebook, where can I get a mask? I get a lot of referrals. It was huge for me to be out in front of the public, showing people my product and how it differed from other products available on the market, when I was at markets and at bazaars and doing, shows. And so I did a lot of handing out of my information with a story, how to support, how it's benefiting my business that you do purchase my masks, and information. And so it was kind of cross-marketing my business as well as supporting my business through masks. Facebook, I don't have a page for masks right now because I didn't believe that it was going to be worthwhile investing in the time, because I didn't think we would be doing this long. So that's my next project, is starting my own mask Facebook page. But right now I've been utilizing my personal Facebook page, and a lot of my followers or friends on my personal Facebook page, I do post when I get new fabrics or when I come out with some new creative thing. So you can either be my friend, or I'm always posting on my stories when the next market or bazaar will be. Next one's November 14th at the Red Lion on Columbia Boulevard. So they're all local businesses. It would be the most helpful, though, that the community truly supports local this holiday season. This holiday season, it's a lot of shopping and a lot of stuff has hit kind of a down that I've noticed for me in local orders and things. So if the community does try to localize their spending this holiday season, it would be hugely beneficial to the local businesses in the area. I have seen a decline in local orders, so I was really thinking about pursuing an Etsy account. But the statistics on that are fearful is that within the first like hour of COVID announcement, there were 5,000 listings for new sellers for masks. So now there's hundreds of thousands of distributors on that platform alone. And so it's a little intimidating for me because I'm like, well, I'm now just a little fish in the sea. So word of mouth, to answer your question, and local support has kept me, local orders have kept me extremely busy. In the beginning, I was sewing 18 to 20 hours a day for several months, several days straight. And then starting to add boundaries and tell people, I can't get this to you in 24 hours. Like, I need to sleep. And so now I'm down to sewing only a couple hours, few hours a day to keep up with the coming in orders. But I would like to see a little bit of increase in orders. So I'm hoping this holiday that will happen. Back to school killed me. I thought I'd see a huge influx, but companies like Crayola were coming out with masks for 3 for like $8. I can't compete with that. So you might be paying more, folks, for a product that's local, but the benefit is that the product is probably a little more quality and you're supporting a local small business. And that is the one thing I think people need to realize is if we can keep our money cycling through locally, we will all do well. I think we'll make it. So.
No, that's a great point. And we've tried to, I think I talked about it before, but we've worked with Regional Chamber of Commerce and Visit Tri-Cities and other business organizations from historic downtown Kennewick, the Downtown Pasco Association, Pasco Chamber, other ones on initiatives. And we haven't talked about that yet, but maybe that's a good idea to just get behind a buy local campaign for the holidays that would support all local businesses. Because to your point, it's something that we all need to think about. We all have these options when we sell, and obviously there's been a huge, I think, retail shift to online, as retail was shut down. But let's see what we can do about bringing people back and promoting local businesses.
Can I throw a statistic
especially
out there? For you guys, I just wanted to throw out there that 80%. They say 80% of the money that is spent at local businesses actually stays in that community. So, when you're shopping, wherever you're at, if you can shop local, it's always the better option. You can go any part of town and there's a local business, even in the mall, even in downtown, even, all around wherever you guys are looking. I'm sure that there's one hiding. So,
No, that's a great point. Alexandra, I was going to ask about, I think, maybe you talked to Ashley about when you first started with the masks that I think you went to like farmers markets and stuff. Was that, and you talked about bazaars or expos or ways that you could kind of like, show your wares, if you will, to people. Is that kind of how you started? And what was that like? Was that kind of a learning curve or?
Yeah, it's a whole new world. The makers, they're called in the area, the makers world and community is very different. It's a unique family of individuals that are amazing. I was warmly invited and I'm so grateful to now be a part of that group. My orders alone locally were pretty high, but I thought if I could continue the momentum by getting more reach to newer people that I wasn't friends with on Facebook or didn't follow me on Facebook, that might be a really cool new opportunity. And so I started out with a couple and realized there are actually like 5 or 6 a week between here and Spokane that are consistent. And so as far as I was going on a regular basis was Prosser. So I was sometimes doing 2 markets a day on Saturday, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And then Sunday there was Three-Eyed Fish. And then sometimes on Thursday there was College Place in Walla Walla. And then there are some big major bazaars that go on in Portland and Spokane and whatnot. It is a lot of work to have a mobile business though, because I have a lot of product and then I have a lot of display product product, as Shaun would know, or
Yeah.
he knows as well, because every time he goes somewhere, he's got the racks and he's got the clothes and he's got the backdrop and the signs and all that goes into it. So to be a mobile business, I did have to get a new vehicle. I had a Mini, and I was making a couple of loads every time, back and forth. So my husband's like, you definitely need like an SUV. So we did get a 4Runner, and that has been a blessing. With masks in the beginning, I was able to pay off a business loan. So it was really, really super successful for a really long time. So yeah, just support local. That's really just the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Please go local. Quit going to Walmart if you don't have to, you know?
Exactly. Well, you talk about that you paid off a business loan, but let's talk about, obviously like the Federal CARES Act has come in multiple ways, PPP, EIDL, grants, loans. We've been working on these CARES grants for a long time for both counties. But Alexandra, did you apply or did you get any help from any of those?
No.
resources?
No, I don't have full-time employees, and not having employees, you're immediately disqualified from a lot of the programs. And I'm also an LLC. I'm not a sole prop. That kind of hurt me, because with those two things, I was disqualified immediately from even applying. And all the time that I had spent talking to individuals that were applying and hearing their experiences and me doing research, I thought, heck, I can make more with this time than sitting here and applying for 20 applications. And so I just decided to use my time to work harder. And I didn't apply. I tried to apply with my bank, and by the time they came out with an actual application, they also came out with an email that said, the money's gone. Like now we have an application process, but no, it's not even worth applying. Like it's all the money's dry. So I have not applied for or received any grants or loans or any of that. This has just been just sheer tenacious, resilient, hardworking effort. I actually gave myself a pretty severe eczema on my hands from all the chemicals that come with fabric. And so, yeah, it looks like a form of leprosy on my hands. It's terrible.
Oh, no.
So it is a bit of a learning curve for markets and for sewing, and for who would have thought your skin would be rotting off because the chemical in fabric is so harsh. Even washing the fabric, because I do before I even use it. It's Shaun would know, being a small business and an entrepreneur is there's a whole lot more that goes into it than the average person would think. And I would encourage those looking to purchase from small businesses, think beyond just the product you see in front of you. There's so much work that goes into getting that product on the shelf, unpackaging the product, tagging the product, delivering the product, going through the protocols for charging and the fees associated, and then the taxes involved. There's a reason why small businesses price the way they do. And in order to keep up on our bills and on our workforce and whatnot, there's, it's a lot. It's not just what we see now. Amazon, you get it in 2 days. You click, and you get it in 2 days. You have to be sensitive to small businesses, that there's way more that goes into delivering a product as one person than what China can do to then Amazon distributors and, so forth. So.
No, I think that's I appreciate you saying that, because that was, one of the reasons we wanted to have both of you on today, just to tell your story and try to share that, to try to, both educate local consumers. But then, I think anything that we buy or involved with a product or a service or something like that, if you know the backstory, if you know the story of it, then, stories create meaning. And I think you just did that in explaining that. But Shaun, have you gotten any assistance or any programs that you qualified for? And
we actually did receive one. It was for 10,000, I believe, and it was from the city. And we received it a couple of months into COVID. And what we use that for is just rent, honestly. So it just took a piece of the rent off that we were down for those couple months. So it's something that we're super thankful for. It's something that, we definitely paid back by investing in the employees and some of the new things that we received, that we were able to do with that blessing, to be able to use that to catch up on those things. You know, but I think that, you know, a couple of businesses got grants, and it's great that, you know, we use those funds appropriately, and we're very thankful for them. But there's so much more that has gone into this than, you know, just receiving a grant. That's just a very slim piece of the
For
sure.
pie. And you know, there's a lot of other things that I think, you know, to educate business owners and just, you know, us all. When COVID hit and things got shut down, you know, the first thing that I did was I created a budget, and I said, what are all of our bills? You know, I need to know. Doing things like looking into the assistance programs that are offered. Do any places have skip-a-pays? You know, or any? I called every single utility company in town that I have utilities with, and I said, how long do we have till you guys don't offer late payments? And, you know, so just overall looking at all those different interconnected parts, you can really make a lot of change happen. And the ability for us to shift some of those bills to a following month, or, you know, it really did make the difference for us in succeeding. And, you know, the topic of today is resilience. And so, you know, I think that, you know, being resilient business owners, we just, you know, really need to take full ownership. I said earlier, you know, our business doesn't operate as it did before, and it totally doesn't. We've taken ownership in our business way more than we have in the past. And it seems crazy to think, because you're like, you know, we were an owner, we were doing it. But, you know, when things arise and all of a sudden you have to jump into turbo speed, you know, to save your business, it really does bring a sense of clarity. And so I just really encourage people, you know, I've been telling them to check out those options. There's still things that are going around. There's still grants to apply for. So, you know, don't lose hope. But you need to be resilient and just check out all of your options. You know, if you're able to make any credit card increases, limit increases, where you're not going to be adding additional debts to it to help your credit score up right now, so you can get, you know, so you can refinance your house. And there's so many different things that people can be looking at right now just to make a lot of change in their life. You know, it's a great time to refinance your homes. Anyone that's looking to refinance anything right now is just a really wonderful time to do that. I know people who are saving an extra $200 plus a month right now because they just refinanced. I mean, some people can drop 2 points. And you know, so just being aware, you know, checking out where all the spending is in your business, and then, you know, also checking things like, where am I not spending any money? And you know, and should I be spending money in those areas? Because, you know, we were relying heavily on Facebook and Instagram for marketing, and no, we can just do it all ourselves. Nope, we don't need to pay ads. You know, nope, we don't got to do this, that. Well, once we decided to actually invest in those things and step up to the challenge and say, hey, we're gonna throw some money in this area and we're gonna try it, we started to see returns in some of those areas. Even just like how I discussed that home-based scheduling app, which I recommend everyone download. You know, it was an additional fee because we got a higher plan on it, but in the end, it's actually saving us money, because our employees are held accountable. And, you know, now if they don't clock back on, because you have to use your phone to clock on and everything, it's saving us payroll. Because if they take an extra 5 minutes on their break or whatever, it's their clock in, it's on them. So we're actually seeing reduced payroll costs because of that. And we're saying, oh, well, that's going to be nice as we expand. And so, you know, just looking at you got to look at everything holistically, and then you got to break it up into pieces and just say, okay, how can we tinker with these different things? It's really like an engine. And then the other thing, being resilient, I think, is we need to, you know, as business owners, we need to understand when it's okay to delegate. We don't always have to do everything ourselves. You know, I had a business coach that once told me, Shaun, you can't do all this. Like, you're so stressed out. Just hire. If you feel like you can't achieve it all, then that's when you need to hire. And so I took that advice, and I did that, and I delegated, and, you know, it's made a big difference for me. And another good thing is that, you know, they say as long as your employee can do the work at least 80% as good as you, then it'll still get done pretty good, and you know, normally to your standard.
Yeah.
So
that's a great point. And I appreciate you mentioning, you know, like a business coach that you had and stuff. But let's go to Alexandra. And how do you learn how to be a resilient small business owner? I mean, do you, in your case, do you attribute it to maybe your military training or background, or have you used like business coaches, or all these things that you're describing, and the really the resiliency that you've shown in COVID for your business? Where did you learn that, or how do you learn that?
Well, audience, be prepared. That's actually quite a personal question, and I don't mind sharing. Thanks for asking. Most people don't know about me. They see that I was in California, and I came here from California, and I really get that stigma. And I came here blonde. This is my COVID color, so that didn't help my case. But I actually left home at 12. I started foster care at 8 years old. My mom was not a healthy individual, nor my dad. I didn't have a lot of family on either side that was capable. And so I learned to pretty much care for myself at about 4 or 5 years old when I was caring for my mom, and then started foster care. And then by the time I was 12, I was living with people that were caring for me, but there was still a lot of kind of on my ownness. I was a pretty bad kid and a lot of trouble for my earlier years. I'm a kind of person that is pretty stubborn and has to learn through trial and error. So not working hard and getting in trouble was not the option. And so I then kind of made a 180 and started doing good in school, and learned that a lot of hard work and putting in the effort does pay off. And so I ended up getting a 4-eyed academic scholarship to Eastern Oregon University. I went for a year, and college environment, dormitory environment was not for me. I didn't need that much freedom. I had already had that much freedom. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to party. I just wanted to be serious about life at that point and move on. And so that's when I entered the military. And I'll tell you, I had a rough go of it. I had a big mouth. I had a lot of attitude. I had a lot of sass. I was put in my place, and vice versa, quite often with commanding officers I would lip off to, and then just get in a lot of trouble. And so it was the beating the head against the brick wall to learn what you can and can't do in society. And that is where I learned a lot of my adulthoodness is, if you want to make rank and you want to pass a test and you want to get a promotion or you want to get a qualification, you have to earn it. And so I did learn a lot there. And then I backed that with being a single mom for 11 years. And I ended up working 4 jobs to make ends meet, on active duty, running a business, going to school full time, being a single mom, and then picking up a side job here and there at like 24-hour fitness or Michael's craft store to just have a little extra money. And I would say having my daughter, really taught me how to do life properly. You then have this dependent, and you have to be adult, and you've got to grow and continue to prosper, whether you want to or not. And so I'd say there was a ton of life knocks, good decisions, bad decisions, that got me to where I am kind of unbreakable. I'm not perfect, and I do put off a tough as steel kind of approach in business, but that's a learned behavior. But my husband, he's huge. He actually Shaun reminded me a lot of my husband when he's going through the financial analytics of things, because he's the only one who's ever taught me a budget or taught me where I should spend or save, or, and he's loved me along the process, because there's a lot of bad financial decisions that I've made. But still, he's kind of coached me through what we can do better. And so my financial picture is now where I'm just kind of trying to hang on, pay off the last of my business debt, and continue to work hard and be as tenacious and as stone cold, hardworking as possible, because that's really all you can do this day and age. There's not going to be a lot of handouts. There's not going to be a lot of freebies. And the way the economy is right now, not getting into politics or economics debate, but we don't know if we have a promising future. We don't know if it's going to be as bright as it has been in the past. And so really knowing that you've got to hunker down and just outwork your competition, or just outwork even the pace that you thought was your threshold, is going to be really important moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. It's not easy to open up like that, but I appreciate your insight, because I think that's what a lot of just people in life want to know, but especially people who are thinking about small business, like, what's it going to take? And that's, you each have individual stories and paths, but I think that you've given us 2 great examples of, like, if you're going to make the decision to jump in to own your own business, you're in all the way or you're not. I mean, I think, Shaun, you said it really well to say, like, it might have been more easy before COVID, let's say, to just say, hey, I'm just going to open a business and, kind of make it or kind of not. But to be resilient and to be successful now, it's completely different, maybe skill set, or, being able to pivot and all the things that you guys have talked about on this program. I think that's really, really great examples.
I'll add one thing I've noticed about the perception of consumers is that small businesses have a ton of money. Like, I've talked to a lot of people that assume, because I work for myself. Shaun agrees.
I've been there.
There's weird perceptions in the community that because you own a small business and you have a really attractive storefront and you're well put together and you know what you're talking about your product or service, that somehow we're rich and we've got it all figured out and we're not struggling. That is a really inaccurate perception.
Absolutely.
And like I was saying, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle as being an entrepreneur, and the struggle is real. But the perception that small businesses somehow have it easy, or we have this incoming flow of regular income, is just false. So really think about that when you're buying this holiday season. Like, everyone's struggling right now, but the difference is you've got small businesses that have families in your community that need foods on the table and a roof over the head. And, I don't feel so bad for JCPenney. I don't. Like, if every community supports its own local small businesses and entrepreneurs, the community as itself as a whole is going to do better. Amazon, you just have to look up how many billions of dollars a day Amazon makes. I'm sorry, I don't feel bad. Like, don't shop on Amazon if you can avoid it. If you need something in 2 days, I'll expedite it for you. But it's just something to add. We don't have it easy, no matter how lavish our storefronts look, truly.
Right. No, it's a great point and something that we all need to be reminded of. We're down to about 2 minutes, and I want to give you guys a chance to plug your business and, how can anybody that's watching this, and we also post this on our website, and then, like on Facebook and stuff, people can go and watch it later and stuff. So tell us, just give us that snapshot about your business. Where can people go to buy and to interface with you guys, and addresses, websites, anything you want to do? And we'll go to Shaun first. And especially both of you, thank you for your time today. This has been a really, really good conversation. And, at TriDeck, we want to do everything that we can to support everybody. And I'll go back and talk about this, maybe a buy local Christmas campaign, which I think makes a lot of sense. So let's go back to Shaun.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm Shaun Ehlers from Free Culture Clothing. If anyone has any questions or wants to reach out to me with any business, regarding questions or advice, feel free to do so. Our email is freecultureclothing@gmail.com, and you guys can find us on Facebook, Instagram, at Free Culture Clothing, or check out our awesome website, www.freecultureclothing.com.
That's awesome. And stores downtown Kennewick and in the mall, right?
Yep. Downtown Kennewick, right on Kennewick Avenue. It's 114 West Kennewick Avenue. And then we are located in the mall right next to Zoomies and in front of Old Navy.
Perfect.
I'm pretty
Alexandra.
Because I don't really have a ton of what Shaun's got.
Okay.
A lot of my stuff is cross promoted. So at WG Weddings on Instagram and Facebook, there's a lot of postings of fabric and offerings. And if you just look up my, it's not on private, my Alexandra RoseLee profile. I am blonde in the picture. I'm working on changing that photo, but I'm blonde in a Santa hat. And you can just message me through there. I do a lot of custom orders. And to add real quickly, what makes my mask different is that all my masks are over 600 thread count total, that they are triple stitched to last, that they have a really comfortable adjustable nylon ear loop. They are locally made and super comfortable and soft. And there are hundreds and hundreds of prints available if you are interested in any more masks.
That's awesome. And because my wife's a big coug and I'm, I call myself a Costco cougar, like I kind of hang on with we love cougar masks. So I don't know if you got any WSU cougar masks.
Five coug
prints. Different ones. Nice. 5 different
coug prints. Yeah.
Okay, so,
and I started making other things that I can also make in coug print. So you just look on my Facebook and I can make anything.
I'm going to go there right now, and my Christmas might come a little early at our house.
Yes. I started doing gift baskets too, with some aprons and different cookbooks and whatnot. So I'm trying to package my stuff so that it's ready to go gifts as well. So
That's really good. That's really awesome. Just want to thank both of you for your time this morning. This has been a really good discussion. You know, it's so great just to hear your story. And again, it gives, you know, meaning to your services and your products and everything that you do. And, you know, we really appreciate your resiliency and hanging in there with Tri-Cities, and buy local. You know, let's support our local merchants, and let's keep them in business by giving them some business, because it's worth it. You guys are great examples of small business owners. So thank you for your time this morning. Thanks for joining us, and have a great
Thanks
weekend.
for having me.
All right.
And congratulations, Shaun. You're doing so great. Bye.
I already got him on mute. Okay,
You're
thank
so
you.
sweet. Thank you so much.
Yes. Bye.
Saying too, I've been seeing those matching sets. All right.
Thanks.